Well, Welcome to Product Handle. This is a channel dedicated to all product managers out there, and we'll be covering some important techniques and frameworks through the series of videos that will help you learn and master product management. And in this installment, we'll be learning and talking about the product prioritization techniques and the framework that exists. And this will basically help you prioritize a set of features that is essential and critical for your product. So you might have, if you have started new as a product manager, you might have realized that hey, I have 10 features that I think is a part of my product. But which one is a priority number one, and which is the feature or I should have must include in my next release. So this is a method that typically help you do that. These are the product management technique that will typically help you do that. So let's learn more about it. So these are the top 9 techniques that I have seen people know about it, and that's why I have also started with this thing that will typically help you prioritize any feature that you have on your roadmap. And the easiest method is a MaSCoW method. Then it goes on with as you progress. Some are more difficult, some are more complicated, but the result are worth it. So there are rice method, KANO model, then value versus effort model, then it's a story mapping. This is a important and it's a very intuitive way to solve it. And these are the opportunity scoring model, then product tree, cost of delay, and by a feature type of prioritization framework. And the first, and as a part of first installment, we'll be learning about the MaSCoW method. And before we proceed any further, let me give you a basic about what we are going to do here. So through the series of videos, and we will be teaching you and helping you build a theoretical framework, and this is what help you build a foundation for all of these 9 prioritization techniques. And once we have this theoretical knowledge about what this 9 feature is all about, we will take a deep dive in each and every single prioritization technique with an example. And let me tell you, and I also found this very useful when I was whenever I do prioritization for my first set of feature for the roadmap. I see that typically I need to use 2 or 3 combination of prioritization framework simultaneously, and you will understand this when we will be doing the exercise through the deep dive. So as a part of this first installment, we'll be learning through all there are going to be 9 videos. We'll be learning each of this method in each separate in the separate videos. So let's get started with the first one, MaSCoW method. So what does MaSCoW stand for? Well, MaSCoW help you analyze and understand what is important and what is not. And as a method, it's a great tool for all the product managers out there to communicate your priorities, your feature to a broader stakeholder. And why? Because it's very intuitive. When you are using this technique, you will understand that it's very easy for everyone to categorize the features in the different buckets. And what does it mean? It helps you uh, categorize it in the 4 categories of bucket. So must have features, and before we progress any further, Ma, this MaSCoW is a name, not a name of city in Russia. It's basically an abbreviation that stands for must have, should have, could have, and won't have. So must have these are the considered as a critical and vital requirement of your product. Without this, your product won't be functional. For example, if you are building a payment acceptance product without ability to input your credit card number, the your product would be essentially useless, right? So hence it's very essential for you to have these certain requirements, without which your product you cannot launch your product. And as a launch is considered to be time sensitive, because you might be considering of launching your product within the next 6 months, hence it's a time sensitive, hence it's very important to have. Next is a should have feature. It's also a high requirement features, high priority requirements, and it's also considered as a differentiating feature. For example, the one that I gave you, having a must have like ability to input the credit card number within the while doing a payment is essential and a must have. But what you could have is ability to save your credit card for future processes. It's a should it could be it's a should have feature. It's a differentiating feature that let user to save their card and they don't have to remember their details each and every time when they're doing the payment. Hence a differentiating but not essential, right? And a could have feature is a possible additional feature. It's something it's a good to have, but it's neither essential nor important and won't have a great impact if you let it out. What that could be is that instantaneous payment, like when you don't have to put the OTP by in hand, it's automatically detect OTP if you are using a phone or when you're doing through the app. It detects, it fetches the details and it pay for it. It could be a could have feature. You don't need to include that within the release. It's okay if you let it out and you might cover it in the next cycle. And won't have feature is absolutely is a kind of features or requirement that you don't need it right now, but something that may be considered for release. So right now it's important to understand that in the must, should, could and won't have, this is basically when we are thinking about a particular time frame. As a time frame we have a limited time, and within that time you could only exert x amount of effort. So we have to divide this x amount of effort into different categories that help categories of must, should, could and want, and prioritized and keep the features in a different bucket so that we know, like, okay, this is what we could deliver within this given time frame. So another this is also a representation of MaSCoW method. I also like it because it gives me a sense of what MaSCoW method is all about. Well, we are talking about a particular time frame. It could be a 6 month, it could be a year, or it could be just 1 month or 2 weeks. And within that, you have to understand what are the features that you should include uh, in your capability, in your release, and what is a must-have and what is a could-have, and what is something that you could consider as out of scope and you won't be including at this point of time for this particular release. So, as a particular thumb rule that is being recommended is that as a must-have should not exceed 60% of the effort in a given time frame. And this is also very important for you to think about when you are releasing something. You could think of it like this: when you release a product, you absolutely have to give some essential, but that essential could also be bare minimum essential as a part of must-have, and the rest you could cover in the later part as a should-have features and could-have features. Okay. So that's about it, and we will learn more about MaSCoW method in the future when we are taking a deep dive. But just give me a hint. Let me give you a hint here. So if you have seen in the must-have, there are different rectangles of different sizes, right? This. So typically, what is happening that you have listed the features here, 1 to 10, and people would just be dragging and categorizing each features into must, should, and could have. But this typically don't give you a priority. What is the number one priority in the must have that you will be starting with? And there are different frameworks that we could use to do that, and we'll be learning this shortly in the next videos. So as a part of next installment of this series, we'll be taking you through the RICE method of prioritizing cap features, and the part 2 would be coming soon. So stay tuned to stay tuned and subscribe to our channel.